Hello Year 4, today we're going to do your lesson via a video and we are going to be looking at decimals and coming up with how to make one with decimals. So the first thing we need to remember is a little bit like fractions, decimals are our parts of numbers. So we're thinking about parts that go together to make a whole. I'm going to start today with a square, and this square is made up of 100 little squares. If I wanted just one of those squares, I want 1 out of 100. I want a hundredth. And I would write that as a decimal as 0 whole numbers, 0 tenths, and just my 1 little hundredth here. I could carry on going. If I have another one, I've now got 2 hundredths. And I would write that as 0 whole, 0 tenths, and 2 hundredths. And you've got a place value grid in your pack that will help you to practice this. Coming down to my next grid, I've still got my 100 squares, but this time I've coloured in a whole column. Now, if I was going to split my whole square into columns, you can see there would be 10 of them, which means each column is a tenth. So here I've coloured in 1/10, which I would write as 0 whole and 1/10. Another way of looking at this is to say, if we go back to our little squares, I've actually coloured in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hundredths. If I put my 0 there, you can see the number 10. So 1/10 or 10 hundredths. If we use that further down, remembering that a column is a tenth and a little square is a hundredth, we can see here we've got 1, 2 columns, so I've got 2 tenths. Here's my tenths. But I've also got an extra 3 hundredths. It looks like the number 23, and we can prove this by counting up our hundredths individually. Remember, we said there were 10 in a column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So we would write this, as I've just said, as 0.23. Now, I want to know what else I need to add to make my whole. So I'm looking for another decimal. And to work this out, I want to continue thinking about our tenths and our hundredths. So you can see that I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tenths. My tenths is the number after the decimal. 0.7. That takes me to here. So I've thought about all of this part. But I also need to add on this part here. These are separate hundredths, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hundredths. Which means if I had 0.23 and I added 0.77, I'd end up with 1. You're going to see an example today split into a parts-whole model, and I know you've seen these in school before. So here is my whole, and in this case my whole is 1. Part of my whole is 0.56. 0 whole, 5 tenths, and 6 hundredths, or we could say 56 hundredths. So let's see what that would look like on my grid. Here's my 5/10. 1, 2, 3, here's my 5/10, and then I want an extra 6/100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So here are my 5/10 and 6/100 or 56/100, and I want to look for what else I need to make my whole. I'm going to look at my whole, my tenths first. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tenths, and another 1, 2, 3, 4/100. I'm going to write that as 0.4 tenths and 4/100, or I could say 44/100. And if I was going to count them up all individually, I can promise you there's 44 of them there. The other way I'm going to show you is on a number line, which isn't quite as easy as our grid, but for some of you, you might like to do it this way. I'm going to